Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to the Men Save Your Marriage show. My name is Terry. I'm your host. I did an autopsy on my failed marriage, and now I use the lessons that I learned to coach other men on how to save their marriage before it fails. I'm going to share with you the things I wish someone would have shared with me before my marriage failed. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hello, gentlemen, and welcome back. This is Terry. I am your host. As you know, this is the Men Save Your Marriage show. You just heard the bell in the introduction. You know what that means. We are back in the ring together, gentlemen, and we are here to fight for your marriage. Today's episode is episode number 79. We're continuing on with the Silent War series. We've got just a couple of more episodes left, and we are continuing on with it. And today we're going to talk about episode 79 is the drift. So we're going to get into this. Are you ready? I hope so. Buckle up. Let's get into this one as we continue to work on ourselves and we continue to fight the silent war inside of every man. Today we're not talking about masks or collapse. We're talking about something, it's far more subtle and it's far more common. As I said, it's called the drift. Most marriages don't end in a sudden explosion. They end in a very slow fade. A gradual wandering away from pursuit, presence, purpose, and discipline. I have kind of shared parts of my story before, but I will very quickly share again. There was a series of years, 25 years ago. We had been married for a couple of years. We've been together for 4 or 5 years. And we went through a series of years. In the first year, our son was born, but he was born premature. He was in the NICU. We almost lost him. It was very traumatic, but we got to take him home. In the second year, my wife is pregnant again, and we lose a daughter at birth. Then in the third year, she has to have surgery for endometriosis. We're being told we'll probably never be able to have children again naturally. And if we want to consider more children, we should look at in vitro fertilization or what options are available. And of course, we were young. I was working hard, but still trying to raise a family. Anyway, we couldn't afford it. That was absolutely out of the question. So we kind of resigned ourselves. We are who we are. This is our family, and let's move on with it. A year later, less than a year later, she comes to me and says, I'm pregnant. I'm pretty sure. Sure enough, she's not only pregnant, she's pregnant with twins. And then, as soon as the twins are born, I get a big promotion. We get a 150, 200-mile move. And I literally am uprooted and working out of town while she's got these 2 babies at home, plus Noah, the older one, who's only 2.5 at the time. It was just mayhem, right? A year after that, she has a problem with her eye while she's driving with all the babies in the car. She gets pulled over. She gets herself situated. She gets to her mom and dad. She was traveling back home, and she gets checked out. Long term, over weeks and months to come, she's diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. That was all in a stretch of 5 or 6 years. It was absolute mayhem. We were a couple, of course, but I don't think in those years we felt like a couple. Looking back on it now, I'll tell you what we were. We were 2 soldiers in a foxhole, standing back to back. She was protecting me and I was protecting her. That's what it really felt like. We come out of all of that, kind of settle into a routine, start to grow our family and raise the kids and build a life. And we didn't even recognize it then. And I had to look back years later and realize that we're not even the same 2 people. Those series of years changed us so dramatically that suddenly we are 2 completely different people. And 10 or 12 years down the road, it's going to cause a break and we're done. And that's exactly what happened. But it was slow, it was subtle, it was the everydays of life that were coming at us constantly. And suddenly we have drifted. Drift is a man's quiet slide into a life he never intended to live. No drama or alarms or warnings, just small compromises stacked on top of each other until the momentum of life goes in the wrong direction. And drift is internal long before it becomes external. You drift in thought before you drift in behavior, or you drift in your priorities long before you drift in your performance, Or maybe even you drift in your identity before you drift in intimacy. And drift affects each of us men differently. The leader, well, he drifts by succeeding at the wrong things. The follower probably drifts by waiting too long to choose. And the man that's kind of out of the way, standing on the sidelines, he drifts by giving up without announcing it. Drift is the silent death of direction. And today we're going to study it, diagnose it, and expose the early signs so you can stop it before it steals the next 10 years of your life. And I can say that one with experience. So let's talk about the leader's drift, shall we? Point number 1. The most surprising truth about drift is this. Leaders rarely drift because of weakness. They drift because of momentum. The leader, he's moving fast. He's taking territory, making decisions, building, and slowly, without noticing, he begins to prioritize progress over his purpose. And drift begins when success replaces direction. A leader drifts when he becomes more obsessed with winning than with why. He works harder, pushes longer, he builds more. From the outside, he looks unstoppable. From the inside, he's lost the map. He has no idea where he is or where he's going. Achievement is not the enemy. Misaligned achievement is the enemy. And you can win at the wrong mission, too. You can succeed at the wrong priorities or build an empire and lose your family to do it. The leader must learn to continuously return to alignment and ask himself some questions. Why am I doing this? Who's this for? What matters most in what I'm doing right now? Direction must anchor achievement, or the leader drifts into ego and not purpose. The next form of drift shows up when tasks kind of outrun your relationships. The leader, he'll say things like this: I'll get the connection later. I'll talk to her later. I'll slow down later. It's always later. He does not fall out of love. He falls out of habit. He gets good at everything except presence, and he becomes productive everywhere except at home. The marriage doesn't collapse. It starves to death. A leader heals drift by learning to be deliberately present. Now, with intensity, with attention. His wife doesn't need a highlight moment. She needs a regular presence. And his kids, they don't need perfection. They need consistent availability. And drift is not fixed with a grand gesture by the leader. It is reversed with daily priority. And the final form of drift in a leader is excellence addiction. Chasing the places where you feel competent. You escape into the environments where you're admired. Work respects you. Hobbies reward you. The gym affirms you. But home, well, home challenges you, doesn't it? Home exposes you and demands emotional presence. So without intending to, the leader spends more time where he feels strong and less time where he feels vulnerable. That's the heart of drift. Not choosing the wrong things, just choosing the less painful things. As a leader, you drift the moment you start choosing comfort over connection. And the cure is recalibration. Intentional return to what matters more than what validates you. And a leader wins the war against drift through evaluation, consistency, and deliberate sacrifice. And let us step into point 2 and take a look at the follower. If you happen to be following right now, there's nothing wrong with that. This is how the follower drifts. If the leader drifts by moving too fast, the follower drifts by not moving at all. His drift happens in hesitation and delay and uncertainty. It's a quiet life of almosts. Drift for the follower isn't failure, it's postponement. They often tell themselves they're waiting for the right moment. I'll get serious when work slows down, or I'll reconnect with my wife after the holidays. I'll start improving myself when things calm down. The follower doesn't say no, he just says later. Every day you delay, you lose confidence. Your fear grows stronger. The opportunity becomes smaller. Followers drift when they wait for certainty instead of creating momentum. Momentum isn't discovered, gentlemen. It's generated. Followers drift when they believe safety is the goal of maturity. They avoid decisions because decisions expose them. And they avoid big steps because big steps carry risk. Anything worth having requires risk. Intimacy requires it. Leadership requires it. Purpose requires it. The follower must learn this, that risk is the price of growth, and avoidance is the price of regret. You don't drift because you're weak. You drift because you're scared. And the cure for fear is movement. Now, followers love self-improvement content. Podcasts, books, sermons, motivational clips. They consume this stuff constantly. But learning without acting creates drift disguised as progress. You feel like you're growing because you're absorbing information, but you're not applying any of it. And growth isn't information, it is integration. You see, a follower will drift when they study improvement instead of practicing it. And you become a different man the day that you stop asking questions like, what should I learn next? And start asking questions like, what should I apply next? Followers begin rising the second they stop consuming and start executing. So if you're a follower, it's time to stop consuming and start executing. Or at the very least, execute on what you're currently consuming. That is how the follower deals with drift. And finally, point 3, the man that's out of the way, the guy that's over on the sidelines. He drifts differently than the leader and the follower. You see, he isn't racing in the wrong direction. He isn't hesitating in place or nothing like that. No. He's floating. Life is happening around him, not through him. He's not fighting. He's not pursuing. He's not deciding. He is simply existing. A man out of the way on the sidelines planning for the future, he stops planning for the future. He thinks in hours, not months, about bills, not goals, about relief, not purpose. This man survives each day rather than shaping it. And drift becomes his identity. He convinces himself that he isn't meant for more, so he just stops looking for more. And he can't live without vision and feel alive. No man, in fact, can live without vision and feel alive. He may exist, but he will not burn with passion. This guy, the one that's on the sidelines, the man that's out of the way, he's learned to numb his pain. He knows how to stay comfortable and how to avoid pressure. Comfort becomes his refuge, his moral compass, his path of least resistance. Comfort is all of those things for him. He stops trying because trying reminds him of failure. And he stops asking because asking reminds him of loss. And finally, he stops pursuing because pursuing reminds him of rejection. But gentlemen, comfort is not peace. It is the painless version of decay. Every man who's ever stepped out of the way is not done. He is just dormant. And dormant men can wake up. They can rise and they can lead again. And the final stage of drift for the man that's kind of out of the way on the sidelines is when he stops identifying with who he's becoming and starts identifying with who he used to be. He talks about the past more than the future. Rehearses moments when he used to be strong. Describes the man he once was instead of the man he could become again. Nostalgia becomes his comfort food. We all have these men in our lives. They're talking about that great football game they played back in high school. You know what? It just comes to mind, the Al Bundys of the world. That is the man who is out of the way. That is the man who's standing on the sidelines. Identity is rebuilt through repetition. Not emotion, not motivation, but repetition. And a man that's out of the way, that's on the sidelines, doesn't need inspiration. He needs direction. He needs a path, not hype. He needs consistency, not adrenaline. The moment he starts building again, even small, little bitty tiny things that he's building, drift begins to reverse. All right, let me share with you some final thoughts and marching orders as we wrap up this episode. Drift doesn't feel dangerous because drift doesn't feel dramatic. You don't notice drift until you're far away from where you were meant to be. You don't notice it until your wife feels like a roommate, or until your purpose feels completely foreign to you. You don't even notice drift until your spirit feels flat. Drift is the quiet loss of direction. Every man drifts unless he is anchored by vision, discipline, and alignment. The leader drifts when he forgets why. The follower, he drifts when he forgets when. And the man out of the way, he drifts when he forgets who. The cure for drift is not intensity, it is recalibration. The strongest men in history were not the men who never drifted. They were the men who noticed to drift early and corrected quickly. Small corrections prevent large collapses. This is where the silent war becomes winnable. Because drift does not require emotion to fix it, it just requires a decision. You don't drift back to purpose, you choose your way back to it. And later in this series, we're going to talk about discipline, calling, conviction, identity, and order. You're going to learn what it takes to build an internal structure, a frame that stops drift before it ever begins again. But today we start with acknowledgement, because nothing changes until a man becomes honest about where he is and where he has wandered and why. And finally, gentlemen, some marching orders to send you into your week. I want you to answer one question honestly. Where have you drifted? In what area of your life have you drifted? Don't write a paragraph. Don't justify it. Don't defend it. Just say it out loud to yourself and name it in one sentence. Then I want you to take one small, precise action that moves you 1 inch back towards the man you were supposed to be. You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to turn around and change the world. Take one small step. And when you've done that one action, then you'll know that the comeback has begun and you have started correcting the drift. All right, gentlemen, that is all for today. I hope this hits you where you are. I hope you see yourself in this, because all of us, at the speed at which life comes at us these days, all of us are dealing with this on some level or another. So wherever you're drifting, where it pertains to your relationships, your marriage, your children, your family, your spiritual life, the areas where it really matters, take a look today and notice where the drift has been happening. And then find one small step to correct it. I thank you again, gentlemen. I look forward to hearing from you and to talking to you in the next episode. In the meantime, my name is Terry, and I hope you have a great day. Now get into your week. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized, so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.